Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm just going to be talking briefly about the reasons why I've decided to sell my Olympus Pen-F. Right, so again, I've got Nigel Danson to thank for this video a little bit and my current kind of photography journey. Because I watched a video of his, I've mentioned this quite a lot now, in that he pitted his 15-year-old Nikon D200 against his kind of latest mirrorless Nikon Z7, I believe. And I and a lot of others in the comments seem to prefer the kind of the colours and the rendering of the old Nikon D200 over the Z7. And that's mainly because in the D200 it's got a sensor in it called a CCD sensor, which was kind of sensors used before the current crop of kind of what they use now, which is CMOS sensors. So that kind of got me thinking, and that's where I am at the moment really in my photography journey, is trying to seek out affordable cameras which are supposed to have something kind of about them in the way that they kind of render images and colors. And if you've been watching my channel, I've already tried a number of cameras now, the Fujifilm X100 and also recently the Fujifilm X-E1. And although they don't have CCD sensors, they do have kind of a sensor kind of processor combination, which was supposed to produce some really nice images. And from my uses and my experiences, they certainly do. And that's kind of led me to this video really, in that when I've reviewed the kind of the images that I've taken with the Olympus Pen-F while I've owned it these past kind of 18 months, I kind of find that they're a little bit too digital and too clean looking. You know, they haven't got the kind of the organic feel to them as certainly the ones that I've seen on the Fujifilm X100 and latterly the X-E1. I've also started shooting with my Olympus EM1 a little bit more, and that's kind of also made me think about moving on the Pen-F, because I just find the images out of this one now, it's a bit older than the Pen-F, are a little bit more kind of organic again. So it's time for the Olympus Pen-F to go, I feel, from my kind of collection. I've only got so much space in the house. So don't get me wrong, I have taken some brilliant images with this camera. When I've done a review of Lightroom, I've definitely taken more 4 and 5 star rated kind of images with this camera, but more than any other camera that I've kind of owned. But I think on reflection though, that's not necessarily because this camera produces better images. It's more of a case of the fact that I probably take a lot less photos than I used to, because I'm not so trigger happy, I guess. I'm more kind of reserved in what I take pictures of, and maybe just I've become a little bit better at photography. So why did I buy the Pen-F in the first place? And for whatever reasons other than those stated, have I decided that now is the time to moving on? I'm predominantly, as you know, a mirrorless micro four thirds kind of shooter, and probably the last few years I've been getting more interested in monochrome photography. So when the Olympus Pen-F was released, I was obviously very interested in its ability to produce stunning monochrome images straight out of the camera. I also held off quite a while as well, because the price of this camera when it was released was well over £1,000 just for the body, and I picked it up a year and a half ago now for £400, which was still quite a lot at the time for a 6-7-year-old camera now. But even though I have experimented quite extensively with the colour and the monochrome profiles, which you can access straight on this dial is what kind of sets it apart from other Olympus cameras before it, and then you can access these colour and monochrome profiles straight from this dial and then obviously alter them before you kind of take your picture. But when I've reviewed my catalogue recently, there's only about 3% of the photos I've taken with this camera that I've kind of kept as their kind of out of camera JPEG, All the rest have been edited in kind of Lightroom, and I still prefer using the old Silver Efex Pro 2 from the Nick collection for my monochrome work, because I just find it provides a little bit more kind of latitude for kind of creating a monochrome image. It's a real shame that Olympus's own software for editing its own RAW files, Olympus Workspace, is such a dog to use. I just find it really slow to kind of use, both in terms of kind of selecting different options and then also kind of seeing the kind of the real-time kind of effects that has on your photo. And for that reason, I probably only really use it to create a TIFF file to then edit in Lightroom. So as I mentioned before, I've also really started going back to using my Olympus E1, partly because the viewfinder is so much bigger on this camera. It might not be better in terms of resolution, but it certainly gives a larger field of view whether I'm wearing glasses or whether I take them off and use the camera. It's just such a brilliant viewfinder, and also because of the kind of the grip on the side of the E1, that greatly kind of improves the handling of this camera. And what you probably notice as well, this is a bit of an unusual lens. It's not a native mirrorless 4/3 lens. It's actually an old 4/3 lens, which you can use via an adapter. And these are still supposed to be pretty good. And I still use a few of them myself. And they're only really good on those Olympus cameras with PDAF functionality, as opposed to the Pen-F, which just has CDAF functionality for focusing subjects. Whereas even though these lenses will work on these Olympus or Panasonic bodies, the focusing and the use is very kind of slow in comparison. So they're much better on kind of dedicated bodies like the EM1. Another reason for getting rid of the Pen-F is the fact that the EM1 and virtually all my lenses for this camera are weather sealed, so it's definitely the camera I tend to opt for when I know the weather could be a little bit unpredictable. So where I'm probably going to lose out a little bit is I did find that the Pen-F was obviously a lot better for lower light kind of situations. Because this is an earlier kind of 16 meg sensor, it does suffer a little bit with noise in lower light, and it's not kind of recommended for kind of any nighttime or astro kind of photography compositions. So where I've been using the Olympus Pen-F for that, those kind of compositions in the future, I'm probably going to take with my newly acquired Fuji X-E1, because the APS-C sensor in these cameras produce a lot lower noise for those kind of compositions. So now it seems it's also a good time to probably sell this camera. They seem to be holding their prices really well. Like when you think that I paid £400 for this one 18 months ago, I've already been offered that again by kind of companies in this country that buy kind of used camera equipment, which I'm really surprised about, because the dirt cheap Fujifilm X-E1 at the moment can be got for around £100. Like I bought mine for 125 from a shop, but I'm sure that there's probably cheaper versions out there. And like I said already, I personally think the JPEGs straight out of the camera to this camera are pretty good, if not better than those from the Pen-F. Okay, the Pen-F has got that kind of special monochrome profile too, which is supposed to resemble Tri-X, and it does kind of allow you to kind of add more grain into the image. But you can also use the great monochrome kind of profiles on this camera. And also I've got a little bit of a cheat with this one as well. You can edit the EXIF data if you so wish on the raw files, and that tricks Capture One Fujifilm Express into thinking it's a later camera, which allows you to then apply any kind of film simulation which Fuji have released onto these kind of raw files. So that's an option as well for these Fuji raw files. Also, if you want to add some grain, then I'll just fire up Silver Efex Pro 2 and add it from there, which arguably is better than the grain that the Pen-F kind of applies. So there we go. It's time to rebox up my Olympus Pen-F and move it on to the next owner. I'll sign off this film with some of my favourite images that I've managed to capture with the Olympus Pen-F. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.